So, hello everyone. Good morning again. Thanks for your interest in this course. We're gonna see about Android app automation using Appium in detail, right? So, you all know how important is a mobile app these days, right? There are so many applications that uses mobile app, and Amazon websites like Amazon, they all have a very stable mobile app that yields them a lot of revenue, right? Uh, so it is almost a mandate that every company has its own share of mobile app, be it an Android app or an iOS app, but they all have a stable mobile app, right? So there are so many job opportunities available in India, specifically around Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad. uh, if you are good at APM, you can definitely, you'll get more calls than usual. Instead of just Selenium and Java, if you add APM, you will get a lot of value. So definitely you might land in a very good job. And then it's very important that there is only like two people who knows APM out of 10. So there is pretty much chance the number of competition will be very less, but the pay will be little higher end. Good. So without wasting much time, right? So we'll get started with the APM. So the first thing, what I want to do is this APM needs a very good memory and very good system to work with, right? Because there are a lot of energy consumption process that needs to be ran in order for you to work with APM, right? You need to run your Android Studio, you need to have your Android SDK. If you want to work with emulator, you need to have your virtualization enabled, and it consumes a lot of process. So if you are someone who don't have a physical laptop, and or you don't have a very good configured laptop, then what I would suggest, you hire something, you rent a machine from AWS. Again, guys, for those who has already have a very good laptop, you may skip this particular video, but you can learn about AWS. You can take it as this as an opportunity to get introduced into AWS ecosystem. So yeah, we'll get started. So the first problem statement is, if you don't have a proper laptop, I think you barely need at least a 4 GB of RAM, and then 100 GB of space, right? So this is a bare minimum that I could estimate. Again, depending upon your processors and SSDs, it may vary, but you might need at least this for you to work with APM. Otherwise, you may see some slowness, or you're not responding errors, and other, all those things. So let's understand how we can rent a machine from AWS, and then we'll try to use it. We're going to see about how we can do the sign up, what are all the different intricacy, different terms that they use, and how we can launch a new machine, how we can choose a Windows machine of our requirement, how we can configure who can access this particular machine, how how to access those particular machine using passwords, how we can take a remote desktop to that particular EC2 machine, and we start to work on it, right? And at the end, we'll also learn about how to terminate this instance. Terminating is very important, otherwise AWS will bill you more amount. Okay, so guys, instead of investing 1.5 lakhs, we're gonna invest some 50 to 100 rupees, and then do everything, right? So this is going to be a really easy task. Okay, so anybody else who has already worked with AWS knows already about EC2. You can unmute and then tell what you have done with EC2 so far. Is the session is going to be much interactive. That's the reason we have very less participants. You can feel free to unmute and then ask doubts, or you know ask your questions, right? Or you can be a little more interactive than your conventional other sessions happening across the globe. Okay, would anybody have worked with EC2 or Amazon services before?
Yes, Samuthan. In my first company, right, I worked in a startup. There we used other services
uh,
like S3, simple storage service,
okay,
Cognitive,
okay,
DynamoDB. We consume these services for our web application.
Good. Good. So do you know how many services this the Amazon has? They have a lot of services, and what are the services you have mentioned is something that S3 is for storage, and there are plenty of services. One among them that is widely used is their EC2. Okay, so we'll see about that. Before that, if you don't have an account, right, you can go Google AWS console sign up, and then you can go to this particular portal. Okay, and it is a very very simple process. Give your email address, your password, give your passwords, give a reasonable account name, and go to the next step. They will ask you for a credit card. Please give your credit card. They will charge you 2 rupees to check whether it is a valid credit card, and then they will refund that 2 rupees as well. So there shouldn't be any problem in the sign up process. So it's a very very simple process. If you face any issues, please let me know, because I'm not going to cover these small things for you. So this is a very very simple process, guys. If you don't want to do the sign up, you don't want to do anything, just watch the video. That is more than enough. You can understand how this works, right? If you don't want to do that, right, that's a very very simple thing. Okay, now once you log in, right, once you log in with your account, see, if you notice, I have logged in with my account. So AWS provides 750 hours of free access to certain services, not all the services, certain services that will be denoted as free. So if you are someone who has recently signed up to EC2, sorry, AWS, you'll get 750 hours of some free services. Okay, so you can utilize those 750 free hours to work with AWS, right? You can learn about it. You can explore more services in that. So one among them we are going to do is EC2. EC2. So if you go and click on the services, see, there are so many services provided by AWS. Okay, let's see about some services. Like if you notice, this is the EC2 where you can rent some machines available in the cloud, and then you can use it for your own purpose. Okay, and then we have for storage, we have S3, what Aditya mentioned. S3 is your simple storage, where you can store big files. They don't restrict you on the number of GBs that you want to store in the cloud. Like we have a Google Drive, right? The same way S3. Okay, you can store as many as files you want. And then we have elastic file storage. This is for sharing your this is a kind of storage that shared between multiple EC2 instances. Again, S3 Glacier is your premium account. So there are a lot of things. If you want to work with databases, you can use RDS. For you can also use a DynamoDB. Again, if you want, you can also have Elastic Search Cluster as well. So there are a lot of things. You can go Kinesis is for video streaming. You have AWS Glue. These are all things that are pretty much used. Right? If you want to work with IoT, you have that ready in few minutes, right? There are a lot of CloudWatches for managing your old AWS things, right? There are a lot of things. Okay, you can go and explore all of them. They have a pretty good documentation, and you can explore all of that. But in our case, we're going to use EC2, right? Good. Once I click on that EC2, you have to be always very careful on the region where you are working. Okay, suppose if you notice, by default it is now showing North Virginia for me. Okay, so what is this regions? What is this whole stuff? I don't understand any of these. Okay, so let's take a help of Paint, and then we'll try to explore. Okay, so normally all the so suppose, consider you want to develop a website yourself, right? Where will you host it? Okay, this website is accessed by maybe 10 people or 15 people. Then what you can do, you can run this application in your local laptop itself. Okay, so this is your laptop. You can host all the servers, your application servers, DB servers, everything inside your laptop. The whatever the IP you have, you can convert that IP. If you suppose your IP is say 1.2.3.4, you can convert this into a meaningful DNS. DNS means domain name, right? So suppose we are seeing Google. So Google is a domain name, right? You can get your own domain name, and then you can ask people to access this. But this becomes problematic when you want to extend this application to 1,000 members or 100,000 members. So problem is, you need the storage, you need the capability to run your applications. So what you do, you buy a separate physical bare metal server with huge size, right? So you have a physical bare metal server, and then you use that. So let's say you buying 100 TB of bare metal server, and then you are hosting it there. But maintaining them, you need to give constant power supplies to this. It should be always up and running, it cannot go down. If there is some weather problems, there is a flood, there can be a lot of natural calamities that can happen. You need to make sure that it's up and running all the time. Again, you need to provide electricity, you need to have a physical security who to avoid people from stealing this, because this is highly priced, right? People may steal this from you. Again, you also need to make sure that hackers are free. You need to provide a virtual private network that no one can access. So you need to purchase certain you know uh, Cisco VPNs and other stuff. You have to spend a lot of amount. But I am someone who want to, who cannot afford all these things. So what you can do, you can get a machine from your AWS or GCP or other stuff. Okay, so that's what we are doing here. So, but how this AWS is maintaining, how they can serve people across the globe. That's why they have this physical bare metal servers maintained across different regions in the world. That's what you are seeing. So they have uh, physical bare metal servers, huge physical bare metal servers in big clusters maintained in these regions. So in North Virginia, in Ohio, in your in India, they have it in Mumbai, I reckon. Yeah, so they have it in Mumbai. So in Mumbai, they have a big huge station where they have a lot of physical bare metal servers. If you want them, they will create a virtualization and then give it to you, some part of it, right? Again, I have a question, let me check. Yeah, so they have this region. So there are so many regions. Suppose if you are someone who is working in India, and then your users are mostly based out in India, then you choose something in near to India. So you can always choose Mumbai, because the latency will be very less. So the users, the request from the users can easily reach your servers and then come back. So the latency will be very easy, right? So they have other cache mechanisms and other stuff that we will discuss for later. But for now, just understand regions is something that AWS is maintaining to have their physical bare metal servers. They have all their infrastructures physically there. Okay, we are only accessing them remotely using this console. Okay, good. So we have understood about North Virginia region now. So now we'll get started with our creating, and now we are going to rent a machine from their physical bare metal server. Okay, so you can either choose the launch instance here, or you can go to instances and click on launch instance. So for time being, I'm choosing a launch instance here. So now I'm going to rent a machine from AWS for some time. Okay, guys, if you are someone who wants to just explore their free trial, click on this checkbox. So now you will be only listed with their free tier eligible uh, machines. Okay, so this they are calling it as AMIs, so Amazon Machine Image. So this is a template. So if you notice, this is an Amazon Linux SSD type of machine. So this will be little fast. What it has a Linux kernel of 4.14, and then all other bin utils that it needs. And so it's a very simple Linux machine that has only base Linux utils. Okay, if you are looking for something that has already some specific softwares installed, you can also go and search around. So there will be something which has a Docker. Suppose you want a machine that has already Docker installed, because you don't have to create everything on their own. So let me take out this free tier. So if you notice, this is an Ubuntu machine that has all these softwares installed. So Docker installed, NVIDIA Docker. So they also have TensorFlow, PyTorch, all these things installed already. So you can choose any of these images if you are looking for. So because if you hire a machine without anything, without Docker installed, then you go and install the Docker. So it takes a little bit of time, right? So you can avoid all those things using a particular Amazon machine image. So Amazon machine image is a template to create your Windows, right? In our case, we are going to have a Windows. So let me take this option again. Click on free tier. Okay, I don't know. I should populate. So now, so I'm again choosing the Amazon free tier. So now I am looking for a Windows machine. So this is my Windows machine. This is okay. Okay. Okay, I'm just clicking on this. I want a Windows machine because I'm more comfortable using Windows. So now, if you notice, we have told I want a Windows machine. Now AWS is asking what kind of Windows machine, whether you want one CPU, zero point 0.5 gigs of RAM, whether you want 8 CPUs and then 32 gigs of RAM. What do you want? There are different types: nano, micro, large. No, whatever that is based upon your needs, you can choose here. Okay, so if you notice, they have even 192 gigs of RAM. So this will be pretty fast, right? So what kind of storage they use? Okay, elastic black storage. It means this is the storage that is coming with your EC2 instance. Okay, you cannot add more storages. For example, you cannot add an elastic file storage, external storage to this. Okay, so again, you can also see network performance, how this will perform under load and all the stuff. But for now, we are interested in this particular T2 micro, which is free, because I don't want to go to the next one. But if you are someone who wants to work with Appium, at least go for their medium. It has 4 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs. It will cost you very less, maybe 100 rupees or 200 rupees throughout your journey of learning Appium. So it's okay to spend 200 rupees instead of buying a machine for 1.5 lakhs, right? So you can choose this, but for now I'm giving the same demo with the micro instance. Okay, because my intention is not to just to showcase how to purchase a machine, right? So I click on review and launch. Okay, I think I need to go. I have skipped a lot of steps. Let me go back again. Next, click on the configure instance detail. I have to tell a lot of things here. Okay, one is number of instances. How many instances you want? Okay, I just want only one. Okay, that is fine. Okay, there is something called as request part instance. What is this part instance? Okay, guys. So suppose let's say you are hiring an EC2 machine for 1 hour. Okay, then it might cost you let's say $1. Okay, it will not cost you $1, but I'm just giving an example that will cost you $1. But if you cost if the same thing, if you bought it in spot EC2, then it will cost you for 1 hour, it will cost you $0.10. Okay, that's like 10 cents. Okay, so that's how cheap it is. What is the difference between the EC2 and the Spot EC2? Spot EC2 is something that they have already built it, but nobody is using it. They want to yield some revenue out of it. Okay, so what they are telling, hey, I have a machine that is available for a very cheap price, please get it. Okay, but the problem with this Spot EC2 is they can kick you out if someone else is paying more. Okay, so if you are someone who wants to try your Docker, you want to do something related to Docker, you can purchase the Spot EC2 because it will be available at least 90% cheaper price. Okay, so that's the difference between your normal EC2 and your Spot EC2. Okay, you can also request Spot instances, but for now I'm not doing that. Okay, next we have something called as network. Okay, so we need to understand what is a network. So what I can do, so I'll create a new paint here. So you have a region. So this is, let's say this is your Mumbai region. In Mumbai region, they have physical machines. Okay, in Mumbai, there are 3 regions. Okay, I don't know different areas in Mumbai, but if someone knows, they can tell. So let's say this is your Mumbai area 1. This is area 1, area 1. This is area 2, and then this is area 3. In all the 3 areas, they have sub regions. Okay, suppose consider there is a power failure here. Okay, they can move all the application servers to run on these 2 things. Okay, so that's why they will split up their region into sub regions. Okay, so they have sub regions, something like sub regions where they will split their loads. Okay, this is a sub regions. Now let's say from CTS there is a banking company client, they want to hire some space in EC2. So what they will come, they'll tell, hey AWS, this is CTS. Okay, CTS coming and trying to purchase some space. Okay, what these AWS guys will do, they will allocate, let's say 50 dB of some machines. Okay, they will give some machines, and then they have to give them a security, right? So for that, they create a cloud network. So in your company, let's say we are all working from home, how you are connecting to your office machines? Okay, you have your VPN enabled, right? You have a virtual private network that connects you across all the members from your company, right? So you have a network, you have VPN, right? That connects you to your colleagues, right? So that is the thing. So you are connected to your office network. Suppose you are working on CTS, you are connected to other CTS members using their network, right? The same way, um, this particular big bare metal server is split into different VPC. So since this is a cloud, we call it as virtual private cloud. So they will give you one particular, they will give you security with the terms of VPC. Okay. So VPC is something that is virtual private cloud. Okay. Make sure that this is a networking for your company. Okay. Networking for you. It doesn't mean, you know, you need to buy a big thing to get a VPC. Even if you purchase a small machine, you will be given a VPC for you. Okay. That's what it is. So we are seeing VPC. So it is telling you want to create a new VPC, but for now I'm okay to go with the default VPC. Okay. Subnet. So subnet is something that is, you know, within the VPC. It's a logical entity within the VPC. Suppose, let's say you have application servers, you have DB servers. For the application servers, you have 20 different copies, 20 different machines that is doing the load balancing for you. So all these application servers I want to bring inside a particular subnet. So VPC, so subnet is something, it's a logical grouping of your VPC. Okay. So now if you want to auto assign public IP, you can do that, all this stuff. And then yeah, that's it. You choose all these default behaviors, and yeah, that's it. So add the storage. If you want any additional storage for, if you purchase a EC2 machine, they will give you 30 gigs for the micro type. So if you want more, you can also do that. Okay, if you can increase the size. Adding the tags, we are not going to add any tags. You can skip this. Configure security. Now this is very important. So who can access this machine? You can configure. So suppose if this machine, I am going to use it for my personal use. I want to access from two different machines because I am working from my office as well as my home. So I can connect from two different machines. So you can configure who can access this. Okay, here. For now, what is the type of access that you want to make? Okay, whether you want to do an SSH connect, or you want to take a RDP session. This is a remote machine, remote machine, right? So you can take a RDP session, remote desktop session, and then connect to that particular machine to work with it. Okay, now you can tell from which IP alone you should be allowed to access this machine. Okay, but if you don't know your exact IP, all those stuff, you can also choose anywhere. Okay, or you can also choose my IP, which will actually give you your IP. But for now, I'm just giving anywhere. If I give anywhere, that doesn't mean anyone can access this. Suppose if I create this machine, Aditya or Rohit cannot access this. Okay, they cannot directly access this. They need to have certain things in their hand to access this. Okay, so you can give some description for your machine, but for now this is very simple process. I want to access this remotely from anywhere, and then I'm trying to review and launch. So if it is telling, see, you are giving your security group is pretty normal, so that you are giving, you are accessing, you are allowing it to access from anywhere across the world. That is something wrong. You want to fix this, you can fix this now. Okay, but for now, we don't want to do that. It's a T2 micro, how much it is. No, if you are choosing something not from the free tier, then it will also tell you are not choosing a free tier, you will be charged some amount. Okay, so you can also have a review at it and then click on launch. Now this is pretty important, right? So now I want to create a new key pair. So this is the file that gonna help you to get the access to this particular machine. So let's say Appium Windows. This is my key pair that I want to generate. Okay, and then click on download key pair. So once you download this, there will be a .pem file downloaded. Okay, and then click on launch instance. So it will take only a few seconds, at least 1 or 2 minutes for you to get access to this particular machine. Okay, so if you click this, you come to this instances dashboard. This is your instance ID. The instance state is pending. It's preparing all the resources for you. Maybe it will take few minutes to get it up and running. Okay, let's wait until then. Okay, Guys, if you have any questions, you can ask in the meantime. I can unmute yourself and ask those questions before this machine is getting ready.
Amut, can we have even graphics also for this? Is there any option? Like,
Mhm.
uh, for our laptops, we get a graphics card, right? So can we get even graphics also for this? No, only storage.
I don't think you have to go and check their instances type. I don't
Okay.
think they'll come with your graphics card. But
Yeah.
yeah, we can have a check at it. I don't know. So if you notice, in the meantime, it got up and running. Yeah. So this is the IP address and all those stuff. So this is up and running. Now I want to access this, right? So let's click on this. So this is your public IP. You can access using the IP or your domain name. Okay. Um, just a minute, guys. Just a minute. Yeah, sorry guys. So you can either access them using the public IP or their domain name, right? So for now we are going to access this machine. So how we are going to access? There are different ways to access it. Let's wait for some time. It is not enabling the yeah. Now if you notice, there is an option here called connect. Okay, click on that, and if you notice, there is something called as RDP client. So I'm gonna take a remote session. For that, I'm gonna download a remote desktop file. Okay, or you can use the IP address to launch it as well. So if you notice, you go to remote desktop connection, and then you can use the let's go back and then use this IP address, copy this IP address, put it here, and then you can click on connect. You can do that, or you can go to this particular connect option, click on RDP file, and then download the remote desktop file. Now this will download your RDP file with all these configurations already there. Okay, now click on this. Now click on connect. So if you notice, it is asking me to enter the credentials. So where I don't have any credentials with me now. So so you have downloaded the .pem file, right? While creating the instance, you need to give that. So for that, you need to get the password from here. So let me cancel this. What is happening? Why it is not closing? Guys, can you hear me? I think it got stuck. Okay. Anyway, hello.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Sorry,
Yes,
it
yes.
got stuck. So what you have to do is to get the password, you can click on the get the password. So go to client or the client. Okay, get the password, and it is asking to browse your key value pair, right? Browse, and then it will be in my downloads. So yeah, there is a PEM file, appium-windows.pem file that we downloaded. Open it. Okay, once you open it, decrypt the password. Now you got the password. Just copy this password, then click on this RDP session, click on connect, and then click on this and click on OK. Now accept this particular permissions. Now you are taking a RDP session to a new remote machine, right? So this is launching a new Windows machine for me, right? So if you notice, it is launching a new machine. I hope you all can see the screen. Yeah.
Yes,
So basically, it has launched a new machine for me. Okay. In this, you can go install Java, install your Maven, all those stuff. Okay. This is basically your brand new machines that where you can go and create all the stuff that you want to do. Right. So let me close this. That is very important. You terminate your sessions after you use it. Okay, whatever the services that you use, you need to terminate it, otherwise they might charge you. But this is a free tier, so they may not charge you. But if you're hiring something else, okay, if you notice, there is something instances that is running, click on that. This is a running instance. Suppose you want to stop this, you want to use it at later point of time, then you can also stop that. Go to instance state, or you can also go inside this and instance state, and then here you have an options to stop it. If you stop it, you can again start it in the same state. Okay, but when you are stopping, they might charge you for some memory that you are occupying, but that will be very cheap even if you buy a non-free tier machine. Okay, but if you want to terminate your instance, it will be completely terminated without any storage backup. So it will be completely terminated. You cannot retrieve the state. Okay, now imagine that you have machine that have Java, Maven installed, your Appium installed, Android SDK installed. All those configurations are already done. Eclipse ID or your IntelliJ ID installed. Everything is done. So you want to retrieve the state. If you want, suppose after 2 years you may need it. Okay, you may need the same template to launch your machine. Then you can also store this. Okay, you can stop it. You can create a machine image, Amazon machine image out of this. Okay, so for that, there will be some options here to generate a machine for you, to generate a EMI. Okay, EMI ID is this. Let's go here. They have changed their UI a little bit, so that's a little tricky for me to get. Yeah, so let's go to the instance settings, networking, actions. There will be an options to. Sorry guys, I couldn't hear you. So if you notice the image and templates, if you notice the image and templates, you can choose the create image, and then you can create a new image. Suppose let's say this image name is my Appium Windows image. Okay, where I have installed Android SDK, Java, Maven, all those things, whatever, my Eclipse ID, all those things. So and then you can create an image. Once you create this image, this remains as a template. So you can launch a new machine with this base template. Okay, so image is something, a template that you can also create. Amazon provides its own AMIs. You can also create your own AMIs and then use it across. Okay, now we have learned enough of it. So let's try to terminate this particular instance. Okay, actions. If you go to instance, manage instance state, change the state, and you can give on terminate and then change the state. Okay, I want to terminate this particular instance. Yes, so it will be terminated in few minutes, so you don't have to worry about it. So it's got successfully terminated. Okay, so let's go back and revise all the topics that we have learned so far. So we have understood how to sign up to an AWS console. We have understood what is a region. Region is the places where AWS is having its data centers. Availability zones or sub-regions are something that they have within their regions. In Mumbai itself, they have 3 different centers to have their physical bare metal server. Virtual private cloud is like your VPN in offices that enables you to uh, uh, have a separate network for your applications, servers or other stuff. Subnets is basically a logical grouping of your VPCs. AMIs are your templates that you can also create, or you can use the existing Amazon machine image to launch a new instance. Security groups, where we have configured who needs to access and which IP address they want to access. You can set it here. And we also see how we can launch this, how we can choose a different Windows machine, how we can configure security groups, how we can do the key pair generation, password decryption, and how we can take remote sessions to the EC2 machine that we hired. And we also learned about terminating an instance, right? So good. I think you all have learned something new today, right? So this is for people who don't have, proper laptop with them. Otherwise, you can still use your own machines. For people who are already having good laptop, you can take this an introduction course to AWS. Though I'm planning to create a very good course on AWS with test automation and YouTube soon, but this might be an introductory course for you, right? Would any doubts so far in the stuff that we have learned so far? I think.
Yes, Amita.
Okay, go one by one, guys. Yeah.
So, like every time we have to terminate the instance whenever we are done with our work in the AWS instance?
No, it is recommended to terminate if you don't have any more reuse for that particular mission. If you don't terminate, right? They will charge you for your the storage that you have occupied.
Okay. And like once we have terminated them, and then next time we have to use that image only, then we have to launch the
Yeah,
instance from
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay. And whatever we have done, like that part would be stored over there.
Yeah, only the software's installed and all the stuff will be there. So what you can do, if you're developing some scripts, you can put it in a
Yes.
GitHub, okay, and then
Oh,
the
that
software
would be
alone will be there. You can go again and pull the code, and then do the coding again.
got it. Got it. And in the security groups you mentioned, like if we are selecting anywhere, then also like from any machine we can access it
Yeah,
just based on the key pair.
yeah. Only with
Okay,
the keeper you can access it.
got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Amrutan, I have a question here. So, like when we are accessing that machine, right, only with the IP and the password, if can I access via Office machine also, or do I need to generate a new key value pair if I'm accessing via Office machine?
No, you if you want, you can generate a new no. So like if you want to access the same machine, you don't have to use a new key value pair. You just transfer
Okay,
this new key value pair there, or you decrypt the password here, and then just
okay,
use that same password in your Office machine. You can also access it from there.
okay, okay,
All you
okay,
need is a password to access the machine. Okay, from the key value pair, the PEM file only, we can decrypt the password to get the file. Okay? Don't
okay,
share it with others, because if you give it to others, they might also get an access to your machine.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Amudan, Shiva here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Amudan, actually, every day, if you are practicing this course, while practicing, every time we have to terminate the EC2 machine, or like
No, you
every
don't have to terminate. You don't have to terminate. Rather, you stop that instance and then you use it back. You restart it again. So if you stop the instance, you can start it from the same state. Your state will be retrieved. So you don't have to do any changes there. It might
okay
cost you
permanent.
only maybe very very less, guys. So maybe you might have to spend 200 or 300 rupees for the whole journey. Um, so that's it. So yeah, if you can also set up some alerts in AWS, there is an option to set your billing alerts. If my bill goes beyond 1000 rupees, please send me an email. You can do that. So once you get the alerts, you can go ahead and then stop it. You can set a limit based upon your requirement. Okay.
Okay, Amrita, one more question. Like after practicing, the best practice will be after practicing this course, then we can terminate the instance.
No, I would if this is just an introduction to your AWS. If you don't have a good machine, then go ahead and use it. Okay, otherwise you can also use your own machine. I will also tell you how we can leverage. There is an browser stack. There is a cloud provider called a browser stack who gives you 1 hour of free access to their devices. So we will leverage that, and then we'll try to work with with that particular device itself. So you might not need an AWS. So you can uh, wait for few videos, and then decide whether you want to purchase AWS to practice. Okay, because I don't think it is needed. But if it is definitely needed for those people who don't even have a personal laptop, they can do this. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So okay, if there are any more questions, I'll take it.
When do they charge? Like how frequently? Uh,
I think the billing is monthly. So
monthly?
you will get your bill to your invoice to your email. So they'll email you. You have to pay
Okay.
it. Good. So yeah, but make sure, guys, if you're creating some instances, remember the regions. Okay, if you create your region here, if you are using North Virginia, and then you create an instance, then you move to Mumbai. Okay, in Mumbai instance dashboard, it will not show you the instance of North Virginia. So you have to be very specific about what is the region that you are creating your EC2. Okay, otherwise you might not be even knowing that there is another instance running in another region that may charge you after 1 month. Okay, so always make sure that you work with only one region, and then you stick on to it, or make sure that you delete your instances pretty often. Okay, Good. And then for working with the Appium, right? So let's cover some 2 to 3 slides about Appium, and then I'll also give you the list of softwares that we need to download so that we can start with Appium tomorrow. Okay. So let me give a quick introduction to Appium. Again, guys, you might be already knowing this, but yeah, Appium is an open source. That is important advantage of using Appium. Okay. And then it helps you to automate native mobile web hybrid applications of iOS, Android, as well as Windows platforms. What is different from other tools? How this Appium is different from other tools? Again, guys, there are some paid tools as well, like Experitus. They have CTest, Appium Studio. There are other paid tools that can do the job for you. Okay, there are some open source tools like Espresso, XE Test, but Appium has its own market. Almost 90% of people using Appium. Okay, Espresso is something that you can only use for Android. XE Test is another tool that you can only use for iOS. But Appium is something that you can use for Android as well as iOS. That is the bigger advantage of using Appium. Okay, you don't have to learn multiple things to automate a mobile app. Okay, Appium gives you that freedom. Okay, to automate both Android and iOS. Again, Windows mobiles are pretty they gone out of the market, so we are not going to discuss about that anytime. Good. So there is always a question that comes to you when you're going to for an Appium interview. So what are native apps, what are web apps, and what are hybrid apps? This is pretty much all the people will ask you these differences. Native apps or apps that are written specifically for that particular device. Let's say you have an app, you want an app that needs to be run only on Android with all the Android specific capabilities. Okay, then those apps are called as native apps. Okay, so you have a separate developer for your Android, separate developer for your iOS, because they use different the platform specific components to build it. Okay, web apps or apps that you are accessing using the mobile browser. Let's say Amazon.com, you can access from your uh, Chrome, right? You can type Amazon.com in your mobile Chrome browser and then access it. That is your mobile web app. In mobile app, you can also have Amazon native app, okay, that you can log in and then access and purchase something. So that is they also have their native apps. They also have their web apps. Hybrid apps are something that has a web view. Okay, this is almost not of people are using hybrid apps nowadays. So hybrid app is something, it's a mixture of your web view wrapped in a native app. So you have a native app, you go inside it, inside that they render you the web pages directly. Okay, instead of creating a mobile specific components, they render you something that they already have in a web view. Let's say you have a payment gateway that is already generated, they show you the payment gateway from their website, rather they create a new component here specifically for this app. Okay, so these are all the key things that you need to be aware. So good. And then so Appium is having certain philosophies, right? So I won't bore you too much with slides in the coming sessions, but for now you need to know certain important things. That's why I kept them in the slides. Okay, so you suppose you want to automate an application. Okay, you don't have to recompile app or you need to do any changes in the app in order to automate using Appium. Okay, whatever the app that your developer have, whatever the app they are giving it to you, you can automate that app. Okay, you don't need to do any changes. Okay, that's very very important, right? Sometimes they might ask you to do this before you automate that. No, not those things. Okay, whatever the app they give, whatever the .apk, okay, Android package file, whatever the application that we are installing from Play Store, it is an .apk file. Okay, Android package file. You don't have to do any changes, you can automate that. Okay, and then also we shouldn't belong to a specific language, right? Some prefer C#, some prefer Java, some PHP, some Python. So you can use any client, any language to write and run your tests using API. Okay, again, this is an open source, that is very very important. Okay, I'm kind of uh, guy who always leverages open source tools than the paid tools. Okay, so Yeah, this is also open source. So we might need all these softwares, guys. So we need a Java 1.8. There are some problems happening in Java 14 or 15 with Android SDK. So if you're someone who is using some latest version of Java, um, I'm not sure whether it will 100% work in your machine, because there is some compatibility issues that is happening. So try it out with 1.11 or 1.14, whatever the version that you are using, but mostly with 1.8, it is working very well. Okay, so if it is something is not working in your machine because you are using Java 1.11, that can be a case. Okay, so it is always recommended to use 1.8 for working with the Appium. Try with 1.11, they might have fixed the issues, but I'm not sure. Okay, and you might need an Android Studio, because we need Android software development kit to interact with the Android devices. Okay, to create emulators, to interact with devices, we need Android SDK. That SDK will only come if you download Android Studio. Okay, so we might also need this software. We also need Node.js, because the Appium is created in is a node package manager. You can download the Node.js to install Appium as well. So it was created using Node.js, so you might need a Node.js as well. Okay, you if you don't want your Appium to, there are two ways to run Appium. One is their desktop client or your command line interface. What I prefer is the desktop client. You can also use their command line interface. You can download the Appium using npm commands and then use it. Okay, you also need Maven, because I'm going to use Maven. You can also use Gradle. That shouldn't be a big deal. I hope you all know how to do the Java download, as well as Maven download and setting up the path. Okay, if you guys don't know, please let me know. I need to take a session on that. I hope you all know about Java and Maven, how to download, how to set up the path and other stuff. Anybody else who don't know these things, please let me know. I feel free to answer. Don't feel shy. Uh, you know. So okay, I assume that everyone knows Java, how to install Java and Maven. So I'm skipping them. So for Android SDK, I'll tell you how to go and download. So let me go to this particular Android Studio download. Okay, go to this particular link. Download this particular file. Okay, this will be 933 MB. Yes, it is a little big, so you might need to download it. I have already downloaded it. I'm not downloading it. Okay, if you are using Mac or any other machines, okay, you will get your different for Linux and Mac, you get different things. Okay, so you can download whatever you want, but I have downloaded my Windows 64-bit exe file from here. Okay, good. This is the first. You don't do the installation, just download it. In the next video, I will do the installation. I'll tell you how we can import the Android packages and a lot of other things. This particular software alone, don't install it, just download. Okay, in the next video, I'll tell you how to install it. Okay, the next, you need to have Node.js download for Windows. In my case, I'm using Windows, so you can go the Windows installer 64-bit, and then for Mac OS you can download the accordingly. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Just install it. It's a very simple process. So it will ask you whether you want to install. Click on next. It will create a path in your uh, environment variables as well automatically. So you don't have to mess around it for long. It's very small file, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Okay, you can install it. Okay, and then after that we also need Appium desktop. Okay, so Appium desktop download. Okay, so go to this appium.io, and here if you notice Appium desktop apps. Okay, choose this particular option, and here if you notice, for Windows you can download this exe file. For Mac, you can download their DMG file and other stuff. You can also download the zip and then extract it, but I prefer download their exe file and then install it. It's a very simple process, guys. Normal software installation. Once you do that, I'll teach about how we can install the Android Studio tomorrow. Don't install the Android Studio today. If you mess up again, you need to clean it up and then again do the reinstall. So you can also try to install yourself, but yeah, but wait for it. I will explain it tomorrow. Certain components that I need to explain before we install Android Studio. Other softwares please install, and then let me know if you face any issues. Okay, good. That's all. I'm done for today. If you have any more queries, you can ask it. Otherwise, we'll connect tomorrow, and then we'll try to proceed with installation and setup. Any doubts before we wrap the session today?
Yes, Samudan, like can you just elaborate more on the different apps types, like native, hybrid, right? Like can you just elaborate more on that?
Okay, no problem. So if you notice, are you using any Amazon app in your mobile?
Yes.
Okay, that's an app that you downloaded from Play Store, right?
Yes.
That's a native app for you. Okay, it was built. This app cannot run on iOS. Okay, what are the app that you downloaded cannot run on iOS. Okay, that's a native app built specifically to run on Android using all the Android capabilities and Android SDKs. Okay, that's as simple as that. Okay, mobile app. Can you open your Amazon website in your mobile Chrome? Okay, mobile Chrome or Safari browser, whatever you have, you can open your Amazon.com in that as well, right?
Yes.
So that particular piece is your mobile web app. So you are accessing an application in a web browser. Okay, so we call it as web apps. Okay, since we are accessing it in the mobile browser, we call it as mobile web apps. Easy, right?
Okay.
Now coming to hybrid apps. See, hybrid apps are not used nowadays. Okay, so this is not preferred at all. So the previous old generation, I'm not sure whether you have worked with or seen a hybrid apps, but I have done that in my previous company, where we have application like Amazon. You go inside the Amazon where they actually render the pages, web pages from their website. Okay, they don't build anything specific for that particular component in a native app. Okay, they are rendering the same old web page that they have already built for their website inside the app itself. Okay, so that's something called as hybrid app, where you might need to switch between native as well as mobile apps. Okay, let me see if I can get a hybrid app and then give a demo about it. But this is not used nowadays, hybrid app. So all you need to worry about is your native apps and the mobile apps. Okay.
Amutan, I have a question here. This React Native developers, right? React Native apps. So we consider that as a hybrid apps because they use the same code base to run their apps in Android as well as iOS. So can we consider it as a hybrid?
Yeah. Those React Native apps is completely different. Okay, they don't bind specifically to Android or iOS. You can also consider them as hybrid, but hybrid is basically a ambiguous term, right? Hybrid tells that you are mingling two things. Okay, it can be like what you told, okay, or what I told. So hybrid is very ambiguous term, but what are the React Native application that can run on same application code base that run on both Android and iOS is also hybrid app. Okay, so since it's an ambiguous term, the hybrid is very ambiguous. People use it differently, and then they refer to different stuff. Since Android is something, so native app is something that only runs on iOS, only runs on Android. You can also define hybrid apps like something that has a same code base and then runs on both Android and iOS. Yes, you can do that as well. I am getting another question. Also, you can also just have SDK tools instead of downloading full studio, right, Amudan? Yes, that is a very complex process. I also have a slide detailing on how to do that, but I don't want you guys to do that now. If you do that, you will lose the interest to learn Appium. Okay, I have a slide specifically on doing that. Okay, creating emulators without Android Studio. I have that slide. Okay, if I explain these steps to you, you will lose the interest and you will run away. Okay, so that's the reason I'm specifically and intentionally not told you that there is a way that you can download Android SDK or run emulators without using Android Studio. Okay, that is a little complex. Don't worry about it for now. Just download the Android Studio, or at least watch the session till we go back to the, and then tell how we can do that without Android Studio. Yeah. Okay, so this is really hard, guys, because if you notice there is 18 steps involved, and if you are using an office machine, setting up this without Android Studio is very complex. And that's the reason I haven't told about it. But for now, you don't have to worry about all these things. I know what is the flow that you may need, so please follow my flow. You should be in a good position to learn. Okay, I will teach everything, don't worry about it. This is an extensive course, so it will be covered everything. Okay, would anything else before we wrap?
We downloaded Appium from appium.io only.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I missed it.
yeah.
There, like, we have to download it for Java.
No, Appium, that is your Java client library. Don't go there. Okay, if you go to this appium.io downloads, this is your libraries, client libraries. You don't have to go there. There is an option Appium desktop apps. Click on this particular link. Okay, and then go to this Windows. If you're using Mac, you use the DMG file. Okay. Good. Again, guys, I'll share the recordings. I'll put the recordings in a drive and then share it with you. Okay. Please don't share it with anyone. So the only thing that I haven't created a website, or given you only I can restrict you, only you can access all those stuff. But I'm not doing that because that involves cost. The same cost I'm giving it as some reduced price for you guys. So if you have purchased the course, please utilize yourself or only to your closed ones. Don't share it with anyone or resell it. That's some kind of a fair agreement that what I want to expect from you. Okay. Um, that's all for today. If you have more questions, please feel free to ask it in the group or ping me personally. I'll see you guys in tomorrow. Okay. Bye.